Hello, everyone, and welcome to the MyCom podcast. I'm SEUN OKINBALOYE. This podcast, as you may know, is an open platform for individuals from all walks of life who sit with me here in the studio. Sometimes they join me virtually to share their perspectives on issues that matter not only to them but also to a large number of people. The MyCom podcast runs independently from my weekday show on Channels Television, which is Politics Today, and the weekend edition, Sunday Politics. Dr. Stephen Akintayo is a Nigerian author, serial entrepreneur, investment coach, property developer, and digital marketing consultant. He's the chairman of GTEX Holdings and founder of Stephen Akintayo Foundation. He's one of the few businessmen who bears his mind on political issues, and the reasons may not be far-fetched. Political leaders make decisions that impact labor laws, transportation, taxes, and name it. All of these in turn influence the business environment. Dr. Akintayo has authored more than 40 books, including Billionaire Habits for Entrepreneurs, Billionaire Habits for Pastors, and Becoming a Billionaire Land Banker. Now, who wants to be a billionaire? Join me as a welcome Dr. Stephen Akintayo as we talk politics, money making, real estate, and surviving Tinubu's economy as a businessman in Nigeria. It's a pleasure having you, Dr. Akintayo.
Thank you. It's good to be here. I love what you've done here. This is amazing.
Thank you.
It's amazing.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I saw your tweet. You are making. You did a long thread about your political decision. I thought when you have to shalaye in Nigeria context, when you have to explain yourself, our Burna Boy will say you go explain that, no evidence. But when you have to explain your political stand, it then means something. Why did you have to explain why you chose Peter Obi as your candidate in the 2023 election?
So, first of all, I think a lot of people have this concept that if somebody from your region is contesting an election, then you owe it to support them. And I think that's pure nonsense. If we want to run Yoruba Nation, let's run Yoruba Nation. But if we say Nigeria, then it has to be purely based on merit. Of course, if there is somebody from my tribe, Yoruba, that want to contest and I think they qualify, I will support them. But for Peter Obi, I felt he was younger. I felt he's done well in business. And one of my argument about politics, we need more entrepreneurs who have succeeded in their private life to join public life. One of what you and I will see are people who have never achieved anything, no single successful record in their own private life, and yet they want to run an entire government, right? And you see it become something people even brag about. Somebody had a cow farm. The cow did not grow. And then you want him to grow a whole national economy. Doesn't make sense. So we need to see how has your private enterprise grown. And then that can reflect in what will happen in public enterprise. So for me, that was based on it. Of course, President Tinubu, who finally won, also has done business, also understands Nigeria, and we're seeing that he really understands Nigeria in terms of the complexity of it. But for me, I felt Peter Obi was younger. Nigeria needs a president who was young. I mean, we saw what happened with Buhari. Most part of it, he was sick and wasn't able to attend to the situation on ground. So for me, it was based on that,
And you don't regret at all voting Peter Obi? Did you vote him actually?
I don't regret. I couldn't even vote, because I couldn't make it to the country. But I don't regret. Actually,
you don't regret supporting Peter Obi?
No, not at all.
That he even did not win, that doesn't come as a regret?
Not at all.
If you have to vote again, would you still vote for Peter Obi?
As of today, Peter Obi.
Why?
Because I think there's still a lot more this new government needs to do to prove to us that they know what they're doing. I've seen certain decisions that were right. For example, I supported the fact that subsidy had to go. It wasn't sustainable. What happened to the dollar as well is needed to be done because you can't be borrowing to back the naira. However, what I think Peter Obi would have done better was he would have communicated more. Let's be honest with ourselves. 70% of Nigerians are young people. And one thing with young people is they need you to talk to them. They need accountable leadership. They want you to be transparent. They want you to communicate more. And I think if this government had done more of talking to the people, particularly at the level of the president, I believe Nigerians will have been humbled about understanding what's going on. But more importantly also, if the president had cut cost, he did that quite late. At some point, I think it's now 25 people that follows him or something. But the budget for Aso Rock, the motorcade, the National Assembly cars, all these things did not show that the government understand that they've put Nigerians in a very, very dire situation. Many of them are struggling to feed. Those of us who a lot of people don't know that I'm not really based in Nigeria. I only own businesses in Nigeria, and I come, to see our businesses, and then I do a lot more business outside Nigeria. But we are all feeling the pain. People reach out to you, family members, everybody needs money, everybody is struggling. So we understand what is going on in terms of the impact of the subsidy, which was needed to go, in terms of the dollar devaluation as well, the naira devaluation as well. So for me, I think as of today, I haven't seen enough reason. For example, my argument is, why having to increase salary? Why do you need another 6 months after removing subsidy to then increase salary? Why? Why do we need to wait that long? Because if you understand how that affects the economy, when more people have disposable income, right, then they can afford to buy goods and services. But if you refuse to delay that, yet the politicians are feeding fat. They are getting more allowances. They are getting more stuff. More people are coming into various positions in government, and all that has impact on the cost of running the government. So I haven't seen enough. I can assure you that there's still more time for the president. It's just going to be 1 year in May. And if things improve in the next 2 years, I will vote him. There's nothing personal. I've never met President Tinubu before. Even Peter Obi, I just met him a few weeks ago at the airport. We're both coming from London. I've never met him. Who else? Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, I've never met them. I try to, run my thing. I avoid politicians. Let's just put it that way.
Why so?
So, I just again, not all, right? If I say a politician that I think we can have sensible conversations, because what I see with a lot of our politicians, they were just opportunists. I know one big man who can put me in a position, and that's it. You can't even have sensible conversation with a lot of our politicians. Many of them are not deep. They are very shallow, even when you talk. Except ethnicity conversations, tribal conversation, religious conversation, a lot of Nigerian politicians cannot even have global discourse. And you can see it. You're a journalist. You see how many of them fight you. If we can't have a single intellectual argument and all of us hug it out, that tells you what's going on upstairs of that person.
Would you ever become a politician?
No.
Why?
My father...
You do not want to serve.
My father... No, I'm serving. I'm already more than serving. What I do is more than what most politicians do. I've sent over 5,000 kids to school. How many politicians have done that, even with government money? Right? We work with widows. We give grants. Every month we're giving grants to support small businesses. So what I do, a lot of the politicians don't do it, even though our money is in their hands. But my biological father was a grassroots politician. In fact, he was the secretary to SDP in the 1993 election. Is it 1993 or 1992?
1992, 93. Yeah.
Yes, 1992-1993 election. He was the SDP secretary. So, Babangida Kingibe was the vice president to Abiola. And I watched my dad put all his life savings, put everything, all his energy. In fact, I can categorically say the logistic money for that election was distributed by my dad. I see him bring money full of briefcase, distribute every single kobo. MK was not given the position after election, we could not renew the house rent. This was a room and a parlor in Maiduguri.
Wow.
Right? We could not renew the house rent. We literally moved to a village, no running water, no electricity. Right? And I spent a good portion of my life seeing that kind of... So I saw what it did to my dad. And my dad couldn't even rise from that experience, because you could imagine the belief that if this work, this was going to change his life. He was like practically, and because he was quite educated and he understood, he had a lot. So he just messed him up. So seeing that, for me, politics is scary. Looking at how it's almost like you're gambling. And another thing I tell people, I don't have enough money to do politics. Somebody once said, and I heard the story, that until you can afford to bring 500 million naira and they will throw it inside fire in your presence, right? And you will not shake your money. Mm-hmm. That's
hard-earned money.
Yeah, hard-earned money. Then when they burn it and you are not bothered, then they'll say, welcome to politics.
Literally, that's what happens.
Unfortunately, I'm an entrepreneur. Investors trust me for business. I don't have that kind of money to waste. So I'd rather stay where I am with what I do to do. But I'm willing, obviously, with a serious government, the areas I operate, I'm willing to give counsel if it's anything that will not make me need to leave my business, I'm okay with it. Because let's be honest, right? Some of the money that these politicians are stealing, you as a private person in business, these are things, your company do in every 1 week or every day itself. So why do I want to bring myself to a position where small thing I say, he has stolen 100 million, 500 million. And these are normal things that your business can generate, particularly with international operations and things like that.
So why create some dirt on your personality when you can actually operate within the private sector and do that? But there are those who will believe that if there is a passion in changing our country, on changing things in the way we want, is also by putting oneself into public office, by getting voted into office and making things happen, other than leaving it to the so-called unprepared, unqualified people.
It's half truth. Let's look at America, right? The men who built America, John D. Rockefeller, J.P. Morgan, Andrew Carnegie. Okay, what political position did they have? Literally, John D. Rockefeller at some point was richer than the whole of America combined. Without that guy, you are not going to see the revolution we now see today in the entire petroleum industry. One man. Andrew Carnegie, the entire rail system, logistics of America. The man owned more than half of the entire railway in America. J.P. Morgan, the entire banking sector. This guy used to bail out America, right? The government is in trouble. This is the guy they come to. What you now know as Federal Reserve today, right, was J.P. Morgan fulfilling that role, bailing out different sectors. One man, I dare say, what Nigeria needs are men like institutions. When those men like institutions have taken over many sectors, developed those sectors, made those sectors viable, politicians then need to come in to work on their grid, right? And put in place policies so that there's no monopoly. And that's what happened in America. So when you look at every single sector in America, it was developed by individuals in the private sector. When they became so big, then the government found a way. I mean, John D. Rockefeller's company was, cut into like 5, Shell, Chevron, ExxonMobil. These were all Standard Oil. Right, so the same thing you need to see in Nigeria. You need men like institutions, men who will take over an industry, standardize it, create jobs. Look at Henry Ford. One man, the entire car industry was on his shoulder. Till today, that's still what goes on in America. Social media, largely on Mark Zuckerberg. The entire electric car, right? Elon Musk. Before we go into SpaceX and all this, you can see a whole sector on one man's shoulder. But of course, you can see what they are trying to do, even with Mark Zuckerberg trying to break Facebook. That's the way it should be. And I dare say that politicians need to wake up and stop fighting entrepreneurs. You need to be more humble. We get it. You found your way to now have some power. And with a pen, you can change a man's destiny. We get it. But if you really care about this country, you need to start partnering with people in the private sector to say, how do we make your business grow? We are starting over 400 housing unit in Houston on a 40-acre. And we did a conference. The congresswoman brought a congressional award of recognition. In my how many years being a Nigerian, doing business in Nigeria, I don't know any award any government institution has ever given me. I have not even started. It's a $150 million project. We've not even started. Right? You're already getting people in government saying, we acknowledge what you are trying to bring to our city. That's the way it should be in Nigeria. Politicians should be able to, if they are really serious, including the senators and the so-called House of Rep people. Thank you for coming to my city to bring this project. What policy can we pass that will support this business in my community? That's really how it should be. Instead, you see people say, who is he? Who is his father? Where is he coming from? Have we gotten our own court? That is why we are not making progress. All of us can go into politics. I saw it as a trap when they say, all of you young people, you're not too young to run. What capacity have you built? You can't give what you don't have. You get into politics, you've not built anything for yourself. How can you then, do anything, really? So, that's my take. It's a half-truth, actually.
And I like that. But I mean, if you look at the mentality of the young person in Nigeria today, and it is the get rich fast kind of mentality, and they don't believe, a lot of young people don't believe in the sweat, in the principle and the concept of sweat, because I mean, a lot of the times when I talk about the principle of the sweat, before you can exert sweat, there must be some energy that has come out of you. There must be some inconvenience that have come out of you. Either you're in the gym or you're running or something. Before the sweat comes out of your skin, you have exerted some energy. And that process brings out the sweat. The sweat is actually not the benefit. The sweat is a process that shows that they've exerted the energy. Then is another pathway to showing that you are putting the effort. But in this day and time, we're made up faces, looking so good and looking so glam is what a lot of people, and fraudulent ways, what the young people think that is the right way or is the way to getting rich. I mean, for you, you are an entrepreneur, you know how to make money. On the other hand, you are also a coach. You teach people how to make money. A lot of young people will be looking at you today and say, look, why do I need to go to school? Why do I need to, whether I can do this and I can do that? Give us an understanding of some basic truth about making money.
So I think the first thing is that we must come to the knowledge that money is a reward for value. Right? Once you have something valuable on the table, then people are willing to give you money in exchange for it. And the reason why our society is getting corrupted is because that's not the rule in Nigeria. Right? How do I put it now? If you just know how to hang around the corridor of power and hail politicians when they are coming, you have a chance of them being put in a position and then you are commanding billions, right? If you just have an uncle that is rich and you know how to blackmail him and say, people are telling me already that you are a rich uncle. If you don't send me money, I will struggle. Once we continue this culture where people can get something for nothing, and we continue to, and the politician comes and then is spraying money, right? What exactly? Let's even forget where he got the money. But why are those people getting the money? What value has exchanged? So what is going on in Nigeria is that the older ones are not teaching the younger ones, even the ones who are made it legitimately. And I have argued that why don't we have a book by Tony Elumelu on how he made it. Why don't you have a book by Dangote on how? And I'm willing, right, if they watch your show, to work with them. I will interview them and work on these books because the youth needs it, right? Sometimes people ask me, why have you authored so many books? And most of my books we transcribe, just so that same model. I'm willing, but the young people need to know that I, as Dangote, I was like you some time ago. I struggle as well. I was looking for capital at some point. They need to hear that from Tony. That at some point in this country, I literally was at the level you are. But because they don't communicate, so most young people are seeing all these older guys at the peak of where they are. There is no data showing where they started. So each time you now come out publicly and say, young people should be patient, but where is the data of how you started in a very humble way? And remember, technology is also disrupting a lot of these things. So first thing is value in exchange for cash. That must be the basis for making money. Number two is that there are two major ways you can make money: active income and passive income. So as you're a presenter, as I'm a coach, that is a source of active income. In other words, if I'm invited to speak in a place or I coach somebody, they pay me for it. Active income. But guess what? The rules show that nobody has eventually become financially free. Not that they didn't make money, but at the level where you have more than enough to even give. Nobody has ever, and consistently so, through active income. People ultimately become financially free through another channel called passive income. Now, what is passive income? Passive income simply means I take my money, I go give it to somebody else who own a company, right? Through buying shares, through bonds, through other means. And then he continues to work for me. That way, money is working for me. I only withdraw that money once. And then almost for the rest of my life, I'm getting dividends, I'm getting shares. Of course, there are one occasionally where there are challenges. That's where coaching comes in, training comes in. You know when to exit, when to get out, and all of those things. So people, that again is a knowledge that is not yet, how do I put it now? It's not
yet available or spread.
No, it's not yet available in a. There's a word around it. General, it's not a general knowledge.
Yeah, it's not commonplace.
It's not a commonplace knowledge about passive income and building wealth. So an average conversation, even in Nigeria, is go get masters, go get PhD. And many parents don't even know that era is gone. Right? That era is gone. Facebook no longer needs your degree to even give you a job. Google no longer needs your degree. Elon Musk was still sharing recently. He said, I don't need people to have degree. I need them to be exceptional. I don't need their university degree to give them a job. That's why most of us dropped out. So parents are not even getting it. That the world is totally being disrupted. Education is being disrupted, right? And the kind of skills people need in tomorrow's future are skills that AI cannot do, things that robots cannot do. And some of them are soft skills that we need to really prioritize even now. Emotional intelligence, leadership, courage, right? To take on unpopular positions like the one I took, right? Right. So these are things we need to begin to push out there. But again, you want to be rich, focus more. Let your active income money be your source or your capital for a passive income. And once you have enough passive income, you are ready to build wealth.
What would you tell the Nigerian, because this podcast is more or less crafted for the path of a young person in Nigeria, and a young person is actually a dynamic word for age and formation of people. But so, what would you say to those who are looking and say, oh, I like to become a Stephen Akintayo, for example. I like to make it in life. I want to be rich, and I want to not only be rich, to make impact. Where can they start?
I think they should start from volunteering. When I finished, a lot of people don't know my story. When I finished I went to SEUN, and I did 8 years instead of 5 years, right? And I remember by the time I was coming, I knew there was no job. So I remember printing 100 CVs. And I had a cover letter. I said, do not pay me for 6 months until I prove myself. Well, the first place, they said there's no table and chair. The third place, the person collected my CV and walked away. The third place, the man looked at me and said, there's no job in Nigeria. I can see from your CV, you've started business on campus, and I actually started business when I was in university. He said, why not continue? And that was the last place I dropped my CV. But today, that principle is still valid. Some people will not take you, but some people will take you. You need to know that what they taught you in university is no longer valid today. Even in our organization, for an average person to really become productive in our company, they need to put in 6 months before they really can start adding value to us. And it's not fair for you to expect a company to train you and pay you at the same time. Now, it's not their fault that the educational system is not up to date so that you have skills that are relevant immediately in the workplace. It's also not your fault that the educational system is that way, but that is what it is. So for me, I would say go volunteer. Now, for those who want to become entrepreneurs, they don't even want to go career path, the same thing. Go look for an entrepreneur who is already in the industry you want to start a business, and either go serve them for free or pay them to become your coach. It's one of those two. If you really want a mentor in this world, you either pay or you serve. Even for me, till today, a lot of my business mentors, whether in Nigeria or outside Nigeria, is either I'm serving them, okay, or I'm having to pay for the time that they're giving you. It's not fair to go and sit down, okay, with a Cosmos Maduka or with a Dangote or with a Tony Elumelu or whatever, and then you're asking questions about your business for 2 hours. The man, that 2 hours you put into his business and generate more money. So let it be that it's win-win. And I talked about it in my book, The Billionaire Habit. Create a win-win situation with anybody you need something for. Nigeria is already a mess because we have built this system based on get something for nothing. And we've seen that over time, those people giving us something for nothing have hidden agenda. Ultimately, right? They are just giving you what they will still take times 1,000 when they enter office. So why not start on the core principle of value for value?
The terrain, the economic climate today, one could analyze it in whichever way you can look at it. The removal of subsidy, the flotation of the naira and all what have you. Giving your own assessment of the policies of this government in those areas.
I think they are good, honestly. I mean, I didn't vote for them, but I think they are moving in the right direction. I think what is missing, honestly, is you have some people who are sycophants. All they want to do is come on your show and say, all hail Tinubu. You can never make mistake. And I think that's part of what's killing our politics in this country, right? Because many people who do that have no value to offer. And I've noticed the same in my own company. I mean, globally, we have over 300 employees. And I noticed that the employees who, when I come to the office, yes, sir, welcome, sir. They're the ones who have nothing to offer. The ones who really have value, they're busy trying to get results. They don't have my time. And I don't also have their time, really. Right? So I think that there are good policies, but because other people are also not lifting their own weights. So you are seeing that it's not having the right impact. For example, like we said, if you do one monetary policy, then where's the fiscal policy? If you do the right fiscal policy, where's the right monetary policy? So if you have successes in your monetary policies, but your fiscal policy is failing, then you will continue to have what you have. I'll give you a practical one. If we need to remove fuel subsidy, which all of us agree is not sustainable, does not make sense. The question is, why are we, if I met somebody, and I'm not going to mention name, who told me he has met people, he has the technology to be able to convert your normal petrol cars to CNG. That technology exists. The question is, why are we not doing that? Why can't the Ministry of Transportation or whatever ministry is in charge say, you know what, as part of to cushion the effects of this fuel subsidy. You have a car that is taking petrol. We are willing to convert it to CNG for you. You drop no money, right? You can gradually be paying, installment. But from day one, we're allowing you to come and those are little things that can, be put in place that then cushion the effect of the fact that you've removed fuel subsidy, right? Of course, the person who removed the fuel subsidy, the department or ministry that removed, is not the department that need to come up with these concepts that will then cushion the effect. You see why I said write policies, but because some other people are not doing their job, then they make the guys who are trying to make the decisions that make sense to look like they're doing the wrong thing. So why, for example, will you remove fuel subsidy and not immediately figure out a way to increase staff salary?
So that is a misnomer.
It's misnomer.
I mean, they say they're working on it.
You can't work on it for 6 months.
You think that it should have happened almost at the same?
It should have happened ASAP, immediately.
Let me ask you, you are looking at what the Tinubu government is doing, and you say that you can actually vote for Bola Tinubu if he does well in the next election.
Absolutely.
Even if Peter Obi, your candidate, is still on the ballot.
Absolutely, if he impressed me, because one of the realities that Tinubu government or leadership is showing is that Peter Obi actually might be too nice for Nigeria. Honestly, because when you look at the complexity of Nigeria is really complex. And there are really powerful people running this country. And they are behind the scene. And you hardly would see them. And these people can sabotage you easily. And I think that there are a lot of tools to blackmail Peter Obi, compared to a Tinubu. So, and if you look at it even scripturally, before a David, there must be a Saul. So I didn't support him being the president, but who knows? He might just be the needed, because I've seen him make some tough decisions that I know that these ones are really tough. This is like going after the powers that be, right? And sometimes if you're too clean, you really cannot get the dirty job done. And leadership is dirty. I tell people oftentimes, leadership is not good and evil. Oftentimes, we think in a very shallow way to think that leadership is about good and evil. It's not that. It's between, can I take out a Osama bin Laden, but there could be innocent 10 people that will die, right? Or I leave Osama bin Laden and there's another chance he will kill another 2,000 people. Either way, people must die, and innocent people must die. And that's the kind of decision you are confronted with as a leader. It's not an easy option. There's no easy option. And that's why for me, I will say that some people in Tinubu's government are not carrying their weight, and they're part of the reason why it's making it look as if he's not making the right decision. And hopefully maybe he will rejig his cabinet and right people are put in place, and who knows, 2 years. But of course, if we don't see changes, I definitely cannot vote for him in the next 4 years.
You're saying, and because you do international business, so you know the effect of the dollar, especially when you are taking naira to fund a dollar, a pound economy, or you're taking dollar to fund the naira economy, you will feel the effect because that exchange is there. What have you noticed in that mix?
Well, I've noticed that some people are profiting from it at the detriment of innocent, legitimate Nigerians. Some people don't want the naira to stabilize, because, they have stashed dollars in their houses, and, I don't know why EFCC isn't chasing them. There are houses in this country, particularly in this Abuja, you people are... I heard you have joined them.
I live with them.
Yeah, you live with them.
For the purpose of my job.
For the purpose of
I focus on my job.
You're not part of them. I'm not part of them. I heard this Abuja is houses full of dollars and people just... And I know that law enforcement can go after them if they really want to. And these are people really sabotage. And these are not... They've never done business one day in their life. One day. One business. So... you have such people. You also have to face the reality that Nigeria is a consumption country. It's not producing. And we haven't seen intentional decision on the part of the government to force all of us to become producers, to encourage production, to discourage consumption. And as long as we continue to, I today have been insulted on social media that I don't wear designers. Okay, but this is how we can support our nation. This is an Hausa cap. These are local attires that are locally. My tailor is based here in Abuja. Vodi, free advert for Vodi.
I'll make sure he pays.
He has to pay, right? So these are little things you and I can start doing to make sure that our naira gets strengthened, supporting Nigerian businesses. I'm an advocate for that. And I think, and I'm repeating it, sometimes, honestly, I see the sincerity of Mr. President on really wanting businesses to grow. But I don't think he can do it alone. Many of the people around him have never done business. They don't really understand how do we support entrepreneurs. You see people making decisions, National Assembly making decisions, they are not inviting the stakeholders. And then before you know, a law is passed. When I look, I'll give a practical example. The whole real estate and infrastructure concept in Nigeria is messed up. And I'll give you two major ones. Ikoyi, the whole of Ikoyi, there is no mall. No mall. The whole of Ikoyi.
A shopping mall.
Mall. Yeah. So you will, particularly during traffic, you may drive 1 hour to get to Admiralty before you see the first mall. Or go to VI and the other part of VI. Now, who plans an estate that way? Because typically, yes, we understand that you are zoning some places for commercial, some places for residential, but there are certain essential commercial that should be close to
within the
residential to help day to day. The same thing you see here in Abuja as well. And then some people planned it and they call themselves, we have been in this game for 30 years. We are older. The pure nonsense. So there's a need to rejig the entire system, including the civil service. My mother was a civil servant, God bless her soul. And I saw firsthand the rot in the civil service. Many times I have to follow my mom to work. She works in PACN. She was an accountant. I can't recall a day I went to work and somebody had resumed aside the cleaners. My mother was always the first. Many of our colleagues will call me by 10, some 11, walking and breathing. In fact, she became so popular in Meduguri, Mamolu, for helping people who they call their light. Because she then will agree with them, okay, let's do flexible payment, deposit this amount, agree to pay this, then call the guys who need to fix, and then they go and fix their light for them. I was in Meduguri 2019, some people were still remembering what happened 20 years ago when she was an accountant in PACN. So I could see how many civil servants are part of the rot in the system, and they've turned themselves to a cabal that they themselves are behind the reason why most governments fail in this country.
You are into real estate. And I know that real estate in the US is not the real estate. It's not the same real estate here in Nigeria. It seems to be a bit more organized. And there are facts to the fact that in Nigeria, the origin of money laundering is tied to real estate in Nigeria. That's where you actually wash the dirty money. But
there are other sectors too, yes. But
real estate in Nigeria, if you look at our laws and how money laundering concept came about in Nigeria, you discover that real estate is at the heart of it. You wash the dirty money and you just ease into the system and everybody thinks that you're a rich man. But from your own point of view, what do you make of that sector? Is it a sector that? Let me start by saying, what do you make of the sector in the first place? Before I go into what I wanted to say.
Well, I think, funny enough, the perception of real estate is that yes, it's a tool for money laundering and things like that, and I agree that it's half truth. And the proof of that is many estates that you see in Abuja here that nobody is living there. Right? If it's not money laundering, how come you had enough money to finish an entire estate and no human beings living there? Obviously, you use somebody else's money, a bulk money somewhere, and then you built it, and then you are struggling. You didn't even have the infrastructure in terms of sales and marketing structure to even sell it. So you're right in that sense. But there is also another category of legit entrepreneurs who are in the real estate, and I fall into that category, and trust me, your EFCC can go investigate. They can verify. I fall into that category of people that our problem is even liquidity, right? Because sometimes you have struggled to be able to get the land, to now even build is an issue. Sometimes even when you convince an investor to say, okay, let's do off plan, right? Pay 100 million, I will give you 5 bedroom. Before 6 months to even do the construction, you now need 200 million to finish the house because of the devaluation of the naira.
An inflationary effect.
An inflationary effect. So when we continue like this, we are really, really struggling. And that's why for us, years ago, we had to move to Dubai. We had to, expand to the UK and to the US because the Nigerian business was really, really struggling. And for me, I think that there's a lot that can be done. Look at the US, for example. If I need to, our project in Katy, for example, institution, I got pre-approval for the funds we need, 70% of the funds, right, in 24 hours. So all I need to do is to raise 30% of the funds. That does not happen in Nigeria, right? Except for some few elites, the orgas at the top. But obviously, we have not entered the orgas at the top level. But Nigeria is supposed to work for everybody. It shouldn't be that because I know someone or I'm famous or I'm connected. It should work for everyone.
So the credit environment in other climes, they work smoothly, no matter who you are, no matter what.
And it is the reason why corruption is discouraged, because a director is already owning houses worth millions of dollars. How much is his salary? Right? And you are the one that make him to be that corrupt. You know why? Because in other clime, bring 10%. If you're a citizen of the US, right? 5%, 10%. You get your house. You get funding for the rest.
And you have a stable job.
And you have a stable job
to fund it.
Yes,
the same thing, you can drive.
30 years.
You can drive a 2024 brand new car.
Absolutely.
With little or less, just about 5% down payment.
Absolutely. And I'm happy that the president, has
the credit scheme.
Credit scheme. I pray again, because putting bankers to handle these things, I pray that it's managed well, and it's not some thing that is cornered to some. I hope that it becomes a law that a Nigerian can own a house
without any sweat.
Look at what Lincoln.
Without having to steal.
Yeah, if you have studied Lincoln, Singapore became what it is because Lincoln realized he had the same problem Nigeria is having. Most Singaporeans were not loyal. They were not patriotic. And he said the reason is because they don't own a house. So for me to make Singaporeans patriotic, I will make sure owning a house is a right. The same way with human rights. In other words, it's your right to own a house in Singapore. And then they came up with a policy that made house ownership a human right, a right of every citizen of Singapore. In a way that it doesn't matter what category, what class you are, no matter even how cheap the house is or whatever, but you are entitled to a house. And once he started doing that, because I know I have my house, I'm loyal to that nation. And let's see if Nigeria can do the same, you'll be shocked what will happen.
Yeah.
You'll be shocked.
And there is this proposition, I know, in the Lagos system. Lagos is always taking the lead. You see Lagos State, even under Fashola, the tenancy law regime somewhat want to favor the tenant rather than favor the landlord in what has become an arbitrary situation where the landlord will just come down hard on the tenant. But now we're seeing another scenario playing out where the government in Lagos is proposing a situation where you can pay your rent monthly. I know a lot of landlords will frown at that because they want their money in bulk. And this operates in the United States, for example, and in some other European countries, where if you have your money, you can pay. In fact, some people will even allow you to pay every 2 weeks because some people get paid every 2 weeks. Do you see that as a way to lessen the burden of the average person in Nigeria?
No, it will not work in Nigeria. You have over 40% unemployment rate. The reason why such policies work in America is because there is lower unemployment rates. There is guarantee of your pay every 2 weeks, every 1 month, and also the law allows you to evict your tenant if they default easily. Now, eviction in Nigeria is difficult.
In Lagos, is 6 months notice.
Except you want to break the law.
Yeah.
Right? You can't just evict your tenant. So when you have such a law, and then you are now saying I should be paying every month, you have situation whereby the tenant will say, well, I won't pay for 6 months. After all, even if you go to court, right, before they even hear the case, I will have spent 6 months of free rent. Right? So I don't see that working. I think, again, it goes back to, sometimes we propose laws that are just touching the surface, that is not addressing the root cause of the problem. Again, the real root cause of what we are going through in this country is that people can't have access to credit. Once we can structure, and let me also say this, I am always frustrated by the policies we make. Our policies are not facing the reality of our population. You hear a government official say, good news, we're rolling out a 5,000 housing unit federal. I'm like, I don't understand. 5,000 in a country that really, if we do the census, we're over 300 million. And data is showing, people are not even facing the reality of the trouble we're in. Lagos, according to Washington Post, by the year 2100 will be the largest city in the world. In the world, with over 80 million people. Now, 3 more largest cities in the world will be in this same Nigeria, according to Washington Post, not Nigerian newspaper. And there are so many research that is showing all these things. And Nigeria has a choice. Do we want to be the dumping ground by 2100? Or do we want, because that's what will happen. We will not be the market. Everybody wants to be selling to us because we can produce, but we can consume. They start dumping to us. Or do we want to do what China has done? To leverage that population and begin to build and begin to export. But again, we have to have the right policies. If President Tinubu is serious about, for example, the housing sector, we need to be thinking about, and I'm not kidding you, how do we have 10 million housing in the next 4 years? 20 million housing, 50 million housing. That's the thinking. And China has done it. China has been able to use technology. China can build a 7-story in 1 day. Prefab construction. A lot of concepts has come in. And if you really want to unlock the wealth of Nigeria, go into real estate. Pump into real estate. That's what has happened even in developed countries. President that decided to say, oh yeah, let's get back to construction. Let's build houses. Because as you are building those houses, people are getting paid. They have to work. Civil engineer, contractor, bricklayer. And you open up the entire economy because of those massive, infrastructural projects. Look at what's happening. I posted a picture yesterday. Dubai just announced the president, the prime minister, the Sheikh of Dubai, because Dubai has a unique leadership structure. Yeah. So the Sheikh of Dubai just announced the construction of a new airport, which will now be the largest in the world. It will have a 260 million capacity, sir. 260 million capacity in a year. Who should be thinking of such an airport? Who? Nigeria still doesn't even have an airport that can take Airbus. And then we are complaining and talking about ZAPs, local versus international. When all that can just be solved by just allowing your airport to be able to take planes that can bring in 800 people, the prices will drop. The flight ticket will drop naturally, because now you need 800 people per trip. And this way the things, again, I'm mentioning Lee Kuan Yew, because I love that man dying. This was the same thing. Lee Kuan Yew saw, in fact, once the Singapore Air had just, bought one Boeing, and he went to ask them, said, how many airports in the world has this type of plane? Because it's big and it reduces the prices. They said 10. He said, we must be the number one, right? Let's turn all our airports to be able to take this kind of planes so that we will not be the hub, right? Because it will be cheaper. You can only be a hub when you have a structure to lift people in bulk to your country, and then from your country they can now take the smaller, planes to other locations and things like that. But that's what we should be talking about in Nigeria, the largest airport in the world, because of our population. But again, what do we know? We're not politicians after all. I'm just a businessman, hustling.
I actually came across a video, and I think that it calls for a lot of introspection. When they said churches have now been turned into supermarkets, and I think it's a sad tale of how some those who call themselves men of God are given a bad reputation to Christendom and to what Jesus Christ himself represent, or even God represent. They're making a big mockery of the concept of religion or the relationship of God to man. And I think that also it then has taking away the focus and the character of men from what should be to something else. Everything has to be magical. Everything has to be miracle. Less of effort. A lot of people forget that there is a relationship that you need to have with God. Whatever religion that you operate, your creator is your master, and you need to have a relationship with him. What do you make of the growing churchy religion, mosque tendency in Nigeria, other than what we need to as values and morals that we are losing so fast in this country?
Well, so again, let's start with the people, because the religious institutions derive their power from the people. Let's be honest, right? So you cannot in any way fight them. And the politicians know that. And that's why you've seen that politicians have not been able to take decisions that curb the excesses of this religious institution. Because you know that they derive their power from the people. And by the time you need to contest election, you need to take a picture with a sheikh or with a bishop, else they won't vote for you. So it becomes an issue. So the first thing is that, how do we address the mindset of the people? And why are people turning to God? Why are they transferring their own responsibility to God? And that's the real question. And the answer is simple. We have all failed, from media to religious institution to educational institution. We have not helped people to know that, yes, there's a place of the supernatural, but there's no super without natural. So you have to do your own part before you then expect your maker. UAE is an example, and I keep saying it to my Muslim friends. UAE is an example of how you can use religion to change the life of people. Most people don't know that UAE operates Sharia. Most people don't know. It's an Islamic country, and the law is based on Sharia. Okay? But see what's happening. Everybody is there. Christians are there. In fact, there was a day I went to church, a Roman Catholic church. The place was busy. They were doing 4 services. I've never seen Catholic that does 4 services inside UAE. But in Nigeria, what do you see? Somebody says something, they say stone him. When last did you see anybody stone anybody in UAE? Right? So it's that the religious leaders have also realized that there are tools in the hands of politicians, politicians cannot do anything, and it's like a game between both parties.
So religion has become a weapon in the hands of the powerful and the mighty.
A weapon in the hands of politicians. They don't want religious leaders to teach the right thing. Because the kind of politics we practice in Africa is not an empowering one. It's the servant, master leadership. Come and bow to me, come and prostrate, come and, all those nonsense. That's the kind of leadership we practice. I don't know why, aside for cultural respect, why my employees should be prostrating. Aside cultural respect, if it's that, you are older than me, I mean, it's a culture in Yoruba, I get that. But because I pay your salary, you should be bowing down to me. It's pure nonsense. Mm-hmm. Pure nonsense. Right? Out of cultural respect, I agree. So for me, I think that what needs to change is what has started. Right? Is that we all need to begin to call out what is bad. Right? Across all religious sects. We all need to speak up. And I say to a lot of my entrepreneurs, they say, Dr. Stephen, you are too vocal. They will come after your business. I said, they've been coming after, and that's normal. And that's their business. Thank God I have diversified very well. So if you like, come after my Nigerian business. I have other interests in other countries. But in reality, we need to speak up.
Yeah.
Because if you don't speak up, we'll all still be a victim of the system. All of us, including the politicians themselves.
Where I like us to anchor is what has become a worrisome or worrying tendency for me, and particularly in my own generation. And I see generation after my generation that some of this value has been eroded. And I see the homosexuality, the heterosexuality, the transgenderism and all of those mixture of confusion of gender, things that the colorfulness of the confusion in the heads of people, and which I don't think the more we allow this thing to, I don't care who cares, and I don't care who listens. Is the fact that I don't believe in those things. And I don't think those things are the things that we are. But I'm worried that there is a vocal and a public display of these tendencies that are less than godly, that I do not find in my Bible as a Christian. And I see this thing go on and on and on. Are you worried about these kind of tendencies too?
I am. I've said that there's a reason why we call it private life, right? It's because it's supposed to be private. And my argument is that whatever is your sexual orientation, it's a private thing. It's not a public thing. And unfortunately, again, back to politics, our African political class gained their legitimacy from, particularly Nigeria, US, and UK. So President Tinubu's government cannot directly go after LGBT, except he wants the Western power to come after him. That's the honest truth. And that's why in the case, for example, that went viral recently, it had to be EFCC and it has to be overspraying money, because you can't come directly. Look at what's happening in Ghana. The Ghanaian president, I dare him to sign that law. His party will not win. You should ask Jonathan what happened to him. Even Zimbabwe. Go and check what's going on with the Uganda, rather, with them passing that law. The Western world is speaking. So I think the issue really is that indirectly we've surrendered our power to the Western powers. So they are the ones who in many cases give a lot of our political leaders the legitimacy. Do you know that in Nigeria now, the US accepts that somebody is the president, technically the world doesn't believe the president is the president. So when we continue this nonsense, until we can run our country ourselves, until we can pick our leaders ourselves without Western interference, these things will continue. My argument has been Africans as of today do not want all this LGBT as of today, right? It may change in future, but it's a cultural thing beyond even religion. It's a cultural thing. It's just a taboo in the African culture. And I beg the Western powers to please respect these cultures, because they are the ones that keep moving the goalpost. Okay? We were worshipping Ogun and Oya and what were Africans worshipping until they came and said it's Jesus Christ, right? Christianity. And then, of course, Islam also in some parts. And we accepted this. Today, the same you is bringing values that are anti the religion you brought to Africa. So you can't continue to move the goalpost the way you want. Today this is right, tomorrow it is wrong. Even corruption, who taught us how to be corrupt? Africans didn't know what corruption was.
The word is not African.
It's not African.
The word is English.
Fact, it was impossible to be corrupt. Ogun will kill you. Right?
Songo will strike you dead.
Songo will strike you. We grew up, I still met a few parts of that, where even in the northern part of Nigeria, because maybe where I grew up was much village, they will put the thing there, they will write the amount there. Yeah. You pick it, then you put the money under that paper and put a stone, and the person pick it. Mm-hmm. Today now, but that's the way it used to be. So Western world needs to leave us alone. That's all I will say.
Wow. Such a lot of knowledge packed in just one podcast interview, and so much more that we could have explored.
I hope I did not break anything, but I fear podcasts like this, because because before you know it,
tables are broken. No.
You are in trouble.
I think to a large extent it allows for people to be able to express themselves without any inhibition. But we must sincerely thank you. Thank you so much. Really a pleasure. Thank you so much.
And it's deep. One of these, I love your show. You are very deep.
Thank you so much.
And I love what you do.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Well, there you have it, everyone. Dr. Stephen Akintayo has shared with us his wealth of experience in business and how politics is tied to almost all of our endeavors. No doubt, it is a different view altogether, and that's the essence of these podcasts, having the benefits of people of various backgrounds sharing their thoughts on challenges and, most importantly, offering solutions on how we can solve our problems as a nation. On this note, I say, God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and may Nigeria succeed. Thank you all for joining us. I'm Seun OKINBALOYE. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.
Thank you for joining us on this edition of Mike On Podcast with Seun OKINBALOYE. Mike On Podcast, for the independent mind.